I'm the home slice, Ascend
Urge to kill rising.
Period. And this is the second installment in my series, Sandbox Evolved, where I take you through 20 years of Halo's weapon evolution. In the previous video, I showed you how both Bungie and 343 have used the grenade launcher class to create some of the most unique functioning weapons in all of Halo, both from a design and actual function standpoint. But within the grenade launcher weapon class, there is one weapon so iconic, so functionally isolated, and so transformative that it was too big to squeeze into a room with 3 other weapons. Today, we're going to be exploring why the Halo Reach grenade launcher is one of the best weapons to ever grace the Halo sandbox, as we break down its complex design language and its pioneering role in the interactive weaponry class, which to this day is one of the most exclusive weapon classes in all of Halo. Be sure you stick around to the end so you don't miss my viewer question. Take some time to load up, Spartans, while I give a shout out to today's video sponsor. Today's video is made possible by Idle Firefighter Tycoon. What does a Halo tuber and emergency services have in common? Nothing. But if you're like me, you like to play on your phone between matches. I have this bad habit of scrolling through the same 4 Twitter posts for hours on end. But recently, I've started playing Idle Firefighter. This fun little game lets you build and manage your own fire station. And one of the best parts is you don't even have to be playing all the time to still reap the rewards. Your fire station will continue to gather cash even when the game is not directly on, even if you're offline. But if you're a more dedicated player, you can participate in live events. This season, you can build your own fire station in a tropical paradise, even with your own firefighting boats. And if you're really dedicated, you can run up to 6 fire stations, 3 in 2 different cities. You can even reach the point where you have both fire services and an ambulance as well. And for such a simple game, it looks and runs great thanks to the recent visual and performance boosts. So stop refreshing your Instagram feed between Slayer matches and download Idle Firefighter Tycoon using the link in the description below. If you're a regular on this channel, you've heard me mention many times now that one of the key things that sets Halo apart from its peers is how its sandbox relies on weapon function rather than its raw weapon damage to dictate gameplay. And simply put, that means it's not important how much damage a gun does, it's how it does that damage. All the weapons in Halo of course exist on a spectrum between these two terms. There are obviously guns that deal high damage, and we typically call these power weapons. And then there are guns that deal specific damage in highly specific ways. We refer to these as utility weapons. And for nearly the entirety of Halo's first decade, the weight of the weapons in the sandbox really stacked heavy on the side of generalist power weapons. There had been several notable attempts in the past to develop a middle ground weapon. The Halo 2 Brute Shot was a blended melee weapon, the Splazer was intended as a dedicated vehicle hunter, but over time, each attempt at balancing a weapon in the middle ended up with a weapon that just sort of ended up sliding down to one side of the scale. That was until 2010's Halo Reach. Enter the grenade launcher. It becomes the 3rd weapon in Halo's history to feature dedicated bouncing projectiles. It becomes the first Tier 2 UNSC explosive weapon, but most importantly, it becomes the first ever interactive fire weapon, birthing what remains to this day as one of the most exclusive weapon classes in Halo, second only to the continuous damage weapon class. And this is where things get important. The grenade launcher's switch fire ability allowed the player to either dish out a quick round of explosive ammo, or the player could hold the projectile, allowing it to travel further, bounce more, and even settle. It would even just sit there if you wanted it to. This simple feature transforms the grenade launcher into one of the most complex weapons in play at any given point, because its effectiveness in combat scales directly to the ability and wit of the user to not only understand the damage layout, but to know how to manipulate the projectile to achieve a goal. And that goal is not limited to just seeking kills. Need I remind you, the grenade launcher was also the second ever weapon to be able to produce EMPs, making it a hazard to any Banshee camper and the bane of any Scorpion kid. But unlike the plasma pistol, the EMP bark of the grenade launcher comes with some serious bite. Unlike getting plasma pistol stunned, getting grenade launcher stunned means you are taking direct damage. This elicits serious consequences for any vehicle challenging a grenade launcher user, without the need for the Spartan Laser's overly handed approach for correcting vehicles, also known as insta-killing. Unlike with a splazer, a grenade launcher encounter may not always elicit a kill. In this way, the grenade launcher bends the combat loop, rather than fully severing it like the Spartan Laser. I could dunk on the splazer all day, but y'all already knew that. But while we're talking about damage, let's talk about damage. The grenade launcher can one-shot opponents, thanks to its ability to deal targeted shield damage and raw explosive damage at the same time. But unlike weapons like the fuel rod or rocket launcher, that insta-kill is conditional and fully dependent on the player's manipulation of our interactive projectile. And well, dumb luck too sometimes, but you know. Also, did you know the grenade launcher had a third damage type? Impact. Yeah, just so much as getting thumped with the projectile deals a sizable amount of damage. Meaning you can approach damage from two angles, either find a surface to cast your explosive off of, or literally slap a guy in the face. And I'm laying this all out here because it's not only important that the grenade launcher can one-shot or that it can stun vehicles or that it has hold fire, it's even more important to understand that each of these abilities is conditional upon the usage. The grenade launcher is never required or guaranteed to do any of these things. That's its design check. That's what keeps it from being just another overpowered misfit or a venerable tier 3 power weapon. The utility of the grenade launcher rests in the use desired in the moment by the player, and there are very few other weapons in the Halo sandbox that operate with such a dependence on player use, because it's risky business. Part of what defines the Halo weapon sandbox in many ways is consistency. And when I call something consistent, I mean when you pull that trigger, you know exactly what will happen with no exceptions. It's a major reason why consistency killers like Bloom or Spread get so much hate from Halo fans. But unlike the inconsistency caused by Bloom or Spread, which is out of the player control, the inconsistency in the grenade launcher is controlled by the player alone. The ability for the grenade launcher to consistently do what I described to you previously is defined by the ability of the player to understand how to best utilize the tool. And in this way, further, it makes it so the grenade launcher is one of the few weapons in Halo to maintain its own off-the-curve skill gap. I mean, it didn't get nicknamed the Pro Pipe for no reason. It's the opposite of the Noob Tube. Does it seem like I'm rambling? Here's the point I'm trying to get you to see. This singular weapon is wearing more hats in any one interaction than most weapons wear in their entire sandbox careers. And what's crazy is that in reality, the grenade launcher is doing most of the things that other weapons already do. It has access to abilities that predate the gun by nearly half a decade, but it tricks the player into neglecting that fact by tying those abilities into the grenade launcher's virtually only one unique trait, the interactive hold fire. This is a gun that makes its bread and butter on its utility in the sandbox and its symbiotic relationship with the player, and to this day, it is one of the most Halo-ish weapons to ever Halo. It's so good at what it does, this gun was virtually straight ported into Halo 5, one of the Halo sandboxes that required nearly every weapon to undergo some form of notable adaptation or iteration. And not only did it stroll in wearing yesterday's pants, it is still one of the freshest cats in the room doing so, as it naturally not only slotted into Halo 5's gameplay, but improved it as well. As we talk more and more about how Halo Infinite is a game focused on weapon function rather than just weapon damage, the grenade launcher should have been an obvious and effortless inclusion in the game. But up until this point of me making the video, it would seem 343 has made what I consider the mistake of neglecting one of the best designed weapons in Halo's 20-year history. And if I had to make a request for any weapon to be slotted back in for Infinite, the Reach grenade launcher is rightfully deserving of a spot in a game that's asking the questions, what does this weapon do and how does the weapon do it? In the next Sandbox Evolved video, we talk about the sticky detonator, the technical evolution of the grenade launcher. So for today's viewer question, let's get primed for that discussion. What do you think 343 was aiming to evolve in the grenade launcher when they created the sticky detonator? That's gonna do it for this video. Be sure to like it if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't, follow me on Twitter, and join my Discord linked below. Until next time, I'll catch y'all later.